Bonner Cohen is a senior policy analyst with CFACT, and they are really putting the pedal to the metal on this green energy fantasy casualty thing that's going on here. Let's talk to Bonner. Hi, Bonner.
Good morning, Fawn.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and I hope you are too.
Just fine. All right. So, green energy is fine if you are set up for it and that's what you want to use and you have the weather for it and you have the money for it and all of those things. It's not like we're anti-green energy. We're anti-forcing us to use green energy, and the fact that its sustainability is so questionable and the infrastructure is not there now is just we're just not ready for it. And this whole we're going to do it by 2030 is a clown show.
Not only are we not ready for it, but it's not ready for us. Green energy was supposed to replace fossil fuels as our main source of electricity, transportation, fuel, and what have you. Well, this experiment has failed. It failed spectacularly in Europe, and it was already failing badly here in the United States. Among other reasons, because it was being forced upon us. This wasn't an organic thing whereby, there's something over here, some new innovation that is better than what I was doing before, such as when the automobile replaced the horse as our main source of personal transportation 125 or so years ago. This was the result of elites, many of whom were unelected and certainly unaccountable, imposing their agenda upon us. They would decide how we would heat and cool our homes. They would decide which vehicles we could and could not purchase. They would decide what kinds of appliances we could or could not have in our homes.
Communism. That's called communism.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I'd still rather ride a horse than drive a car, to be honest with you, but I can't get there fast enough. So, you got to do what you got to do. But I know people who have solar panels, and they like them, but it didn't replace their use of the fossil fuels. Some of the energy gets stored. They can use it later. It saves on their bills, whatever the case may be. That's all well and good because they chose to do that. I'm happy for them. Some of them put them on their houses and then their roofs leaked. Who knew? But I'm just saying, if the clouds roll in or the wind ain't blowing or if the conditions aren't perfect, these things are not reliable.
No, they're not reliable, and they carry a whole bunch of very negative consequences with them. Not so much the relatively harmless solar panels that some people choose to put on their roofs. If they live in an area of the country, say the desert Southwest, where you get a lot of sun, let them do it. It's their money. They can do whatever they wish with it. But when you start constructing gigantic solar arrays and wind turbines, we call these things wind farms. The only thing that's really harvested there until recently were the taxpayer subsidies that help prop those things up. But these things are monstrosities. They, with respect to the wind turbines, they kill hundreds of thousands of birds and bats every year. When those wind turbines reach the end of their limited life expectancy, it's roughly 20 years max, whether you're talking about onshore or offshore, what do you do with the wind turbines? Well, most of the materials that are in those things cannot be recycled.
Yeah.
Where they wind up, they wind up in landfills, which in the Midwest and other parts of the country have become graveyards for wind turbines. The same is true of these solar arrays, the solar panels. There's one in California that has 1.2 million. This is just one solar array. California, 1.2 million solar panels. What do you do with the solar panels when their life expectancy is over? you can't recycle them. They, too, are going to go into landfills, and these things are called solar waste and wind waste. The more of these things we have to bury underground, the more environmental degradation they could potentially cause because of the chemicals that are in them. If they can leak out, get into the groundwater and what have you, they could be a real problem. And on top of this, they were never anything more than intermittent sources of energy anyway.
Even the creation of solar panels gives off that goo that you're talking about that can get into the groundwater. And I don't mean to cite Hollywood as being factual, but there is a movie called Sahara with Matthew McConaughey where this literally shows what could happen. And I was like, oh my gosh. This was made before the Greens were in charge here, because it tells the truth. But, if for no other reason to say no to this is because of reality is not ready for it, I also, if it hails or something, they're expensive to replace. Like you said, they leak some sort of weird chemical. And then we have some farmland nearby here where they have put solar panels in the whole farmland. They've decided not to farm. They've put up solar panels. What if it hails? What happens then?
Oh, that's right. See, the farmers are paid by the solar developers. And the same scheme is in place for wind turbines on private land.
They're
paid a certain amount of money.
Hang on, they're yelling at me. I didn't say you couldn't do that. I just said, what if it hails? That's what I said.
Yeah, what if it hails?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Or snow. You have your solar panels. If there's snow on top of the solar panels, even if the sun is out, those solar panels produce zero electricity. And in certain parts of the country, in the winter, you're going to get a lot of snow, and it doesn't matter how many solar panels you have on a solar farm. They're not going to produce any electricity. That's during the day, and of course, the nighttime comes, they produce nothing then either. This is a terrible use of land because wind turbines, wind farms, and solar panels, they're very land intensive. And for that, the payback is we get intermittent, which is another word for unreliable energy. And again, the only reason we have these things is that they have been politically favored for years, either through subsidies, which are mercifully being phased out at the federal level,
right,
or through state mandates that requiring that a certain percentage of the electricity produced in a state come from renewable sources, renewable being wind and solar. And without the game having been rigged in that way, do you really think we would be seeing these ugly as sin things being spread around the country? I think the answer is conclusively no.
Yeah, well, Democrats usually do not support logic when it comes to this because they think they're right and you can't tell them anything to the contrary until they get to the point where they don't have any power and they have to go fill their hybrid with gas because the battery's dead. But I'm just saying that the green zealots out there get really, really mad when we do shows like this, and they get pretty feisty about it. But the fact remains, we still have to have fossil fuels, and I'm really glad that all of the above is still legal. And you don't get to tell me that I have to drive a certain kind of car. I know that old cars would be grandfathered in. I get that part. People are commenting. But I don't want to be forced to have solar panels. I don't want them. I don't want to be forced to have a wind turbine. I don't want it. I don't want these things in my life. And in a free country, I shouldn't have to have them. And if anybody learned a lesson, let's just look at Europe. Let's look at Germany. They almost went upside down.
They did. Remember the once mighty German automobile industry?
Yeah.
It's in real trouble now. Mm-hmm. They produced wonderful cars. No one really denied that. But the cost of electricity per kilowatt hour in Germany is 3 times higher than it is in the United States. Why? Because Germany went green. It went for wind, and it went for solar, and we have Germany as a perfect example, and you could add Britain to that, as a direction in which we do not want to go. Their decarbonization efforts turned out to be deindustrialization because they can't produce the products for which they deservedly had a very good reputation, having to pay so much for electricity. They shut down their nuclear industry. They turned their backs on fossil fuels, and look what that got them.
Yeah.
And we can learn a lot from their catastrophic failure.
Yes, we can. We have 2 minutes left, but I do want to talk just briefly because we have 2 minutes left. You know, the desert sounds like a perfect place for solar stuff, but you got to remember there are Indian reservations, there are ranchers out there. These are lands that people own, so some of them are not given the option. They are being forced to do it by their states because they've bought into the green paradigm. But you can't just let it swallow up rich farmland and stuff like that, because we need to eat, and solar panels are not food.
That's right. There's also the question of devaluing properties nearby. Mm-hmm. Who wants to buy a rural property, be it for a ranch or right across the highway is a gigantic wind farm or solar panel? Mm-hmm. You want to sell it, you're going to have a difficult time finding a buyer who will do that. Isn't it ironic that in the name of practicing good environmental policy, we are putting up things that actually degrade the environment through, as we mentioned earlier, their threat to wildlife and what happens to all these materials once they have reached the end of their life expectancy, the whole problem of waste. No, this is a failed experiment. We don't want to go down it, and it's failed whether you're talking about putting wind turbines on land or putting them offshore. It is asking for real trouble. It's asking for higher electricity rates, and it's a complete failure. We have the examples of Europe sitting before us. Let's learn from the mistakes of others.
Yes, and carbon dioxide is not bad for the environment. Your cows can fart, poop, and whatever they want all day long. It's not going to hurt a thing. They've been doing it since time began. The trees are eating it up, and they're giving off the oxygen we need to breathe. So if you want to be mad about it, you go right ahead, lose your mind. We don't really care. It's entirely up to you because you still live in a free country, and we'd like to keep it that way. And green energy is not on my list of things to do. And I like my ceiling fans and my gas range. Bonner Cohen, Senior Policy Analyst of CFACT. Where do they go to learn more, sir?
Please check us out at our website. We have a lot of very good information. It is CFACT.org.
Bonner Cohen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vaughn.
Bye-bye.